Okay, good afternoon, everyone. You are all at the free webinar, Gamer Psychology, Designing Hit Video Games. And this is being brought to you by Situated Research. We're a company located in Naperville, Illinois, just about 45 minutes west of Chicago. And we're really excited to bring you today's webinar. It's going to give you a lot of insight into the psychology of your gamers who are playing your games. Today's agenda is we're going to go through differentiating quality assurance from usability research. So we're going to talk about both of those, the benefits to each, and then what the difference is. We're also going to discuss problems with starting usability research at the end of the development life cycle. We'll also discuss modeling gamer psychology and gamer challenges. We'll discuss designing engagement or for engagement, motivating players through goals and failures through gameplay. And lastly, we're going to talk about standard usability testing as well as the RITE method, talk about the pros and cons to each. So who should be attending today's free webinar? Well, we have a little over 1,700 people today attending, so we're really proud of that number. We really got the word out and everybody was really interested in the topics that we were going to discuss today, so we have a really good turnout. But anyone who's attending should be in the gaming industry, and anyone who's interested in making games for their users should be attending. Anyone who's interested in making the next big hit video game should also be attending. And of course, anyone who's working for a company that doesn't believe in incorporating UX within their design process should be attending. Now, before we get started, I want to tell you a little bit about our company, Situated Research. Our company is split into 3 divisions. We have our video game division, we have our software and products division, and we have our web design / social media division. And the whole focus of Situated Research is usability and creating the ultimate user experience. And we do that through several different ways, and we'll go through that throughout today's webinar. But we apply usability and usability research to all 3 of these divisions. We have many video game companies who have partnered up with us on past projects where we've helped them with the usability and the overall user experience with their games. We have a lot of startup companies right now just getting into the industry, contacting us because they want to get on top of the industry right at the get-go. And they know how valuable usability research and testing is. We have many software companies as well as companies that produce products that contact us where we will do usability research for them as well. And as far as web design goes, every website needs to be user-friendly. So if the website's not user-friendly, people aren't going to use it. So there's no point in having it. So whether we redesign a website or we help a web team or an IT team better their website, we can do that as well. So that's just a little bit about our company. We started our company at the end of 2008, and we've been going strong ever since. We're expanding like crazy, and we're really, really excited about the opportunity to present today's webinar to you on gamer psychology. Really, usability is the future of games. In order to have a hit video game, you have to incorporate usability research and testing. Now, if you're attending today and your company has a usability department, that's great. But a lot of gaming companies don't. And a lot of gaming companies think that they have a usability department and they really don't. So today we're going to go into that. So don't leave right now thinking, oh, well, we already have this department. I'm going to go into what traditionally gaming companies are doing and what they should be doing. So here at Situated Research, we go beyond just quality assurance testing. We have Dr. Matthew Sherritt, who has his PhD. It's an interdisciplinary degree in communication and information sciences. So he specializes in user experience research and usability testing within software and video games. So, incorporated within our research, we look at interactive marketing and behavioral psychology. We look at interaction analysis and participatory design. We also look at human engagement, motivation and activity, the overall user behavior. We also look at cross-cultural communication and regional cultural dimensions, as well as collaborative work, distributed cognition, and online communities. And of course, human-computer action and mental models, such as cognitive psychology, come into play when we do our research. Again, we started our company at the end of 2008, and we did a year's worth of research before we started the company. So we know that we have a niche, and we know that we are the only ones out there that do usability research and testing that incorporates all these different facets into our research. What that does is it gives our clients really good, rich feedback to enhance the user experience within their video games. So some people think that we design games. We don't do that. We assist gaming companies with the overall user experience. And we're all huge gamers here, whether people in our web design division or our software division. Everyone is a huge video gamer. We all get the latest games. We have the latest systems. We're always playing. And so we are active in the gaming industry. So Situated Research started in 2008, and I always like to give this little background information on why we started the company. We were at the 2008 Meaningful Play Conference at Michigan State, and Dr. Sherritt, we were there because Dr. Sherritt got a best paper, and he was doing a presentation there. And so we decided to stay the whole week and attend all of the talks. And one of the talks was from Richard Hillman. He was the keynote, and he's from EA. And he did a keynote speech on Spore. And he was telling us about the development of the game and all the testing that they went through and how they hired a usability company to assist them to make the game better and to make the ultimate user experience. They wanted Spore to be great. So he said, you know, we paid over $1 million for this research, and what we received were no transcripts. We only got screenshots of gameplay, and it only pointed out issues with the interface. So where glitches were here and there, and that's what they got. And this company, who will remain nameless, was paid over $1 million to help EA make Spore the best experience possible for its users. And if anyone has played Spore, they know that it's a good game, but the overall user experience is really missing. And so they really didn't get it. And they were pretty disappointed. Richard expressed that in his keynote. And after his whole discussion in his keynote, Dr. Sheridan and I kind of looked at each other and we were like, whoa, what kind of a light bulb went off? And we were like, you know, I was like, you know, you're the only one who has this background. You're the only one who applies it to video games and software. We need to start our own company. And so we talked to Richard Hillman afterwards and told him about Dr. Sherritt's background and what he does and how we apply it to our research, and we started Situated Research. He highly recommended it, and it's been going great ever since. So we were inspired by that keynote, and it really was with Dr. Sherritt's background, and what he did is he took serious video games and applied them into a classroom environment. So he took Civilization 4, and he took Roller Coaster Tycoon and Making History, Calm in the Storm. And he took these games into a classroom setting, and he looked at how the students collaborated together to play the game successfully. He looked at the game design. He looked at overall gameplay. He looked at usability. He looked at how they took, the students took what they learned in the classroom and applied it to the video game. And so all of that rolled into a 1,200-page dissertation and rolled into Situated Research. Currently, we have partnerships with many gaming companies. Like I said at the beginning, we've worked with some really big named companies. We have worked with startup companies as well. So we're all over the gaming industry. We attend all the conferences, and we are looking for new clients and really looking to help startup companies, because I think that if they get in on this right away, they'll be very successful. So what is situated research? Here at situated research, we do in situ or user experience research. And so why do we do in situ? Well, by studying users in their natural setting, we gain so much more insight into actual uses rather than uses in a lab. So we can set up video cameras and microphones in someone's home and do testing that way. Or they can come into our lab, and I put up quote marks because it's not really a lab, quotation marks. It's not a lab because it's an office where we have made it into a living room setting. So, and there's no mirrored wall where we're sitting behind and watching them all through their gameplay. We don't do that. We set up the video cameras. They're hidden in the ceiling and around the room. The players don't know where they are. They, of course, know that they're being recorded for research, so they sign a waiver. But they're in there. They bring their friends, and we give them food, whatever they want, and we videotape them playing a game from beginning to end. It may take several days to do that, or they might just want to sit in there the whole time until the end of the game. It just really depends, or they might get fed up with the game and say, you know what, I don't want to play anymore. Well, that tells us a lot too. So then what we do is we have those videotapes and we analyze the videotapes. So we're not sitting behind a mirrored wall where they know they're being watched. We don't hook up microphones to them. We want to make it as natural as possible, because then they're going to act like they would in their natural setting. So why UX? By incorporating user research into the design process, we're ensured that the user's needs are met. So this allows us to work productively, efficiently, and happily. So I'd like to discuss quality assurance versus usability research. A lot of gaming companies claim that they have a usability department, or they have heads of usability. And if you look at these people's backgrounds, they really have no idea. And they're really only doing quality assurance testing. The history with traditional game design is out the window now. And a lot of gaming companies know this, but you'd be surprised of how many come to us and they're still doing this. They're using the waterfall design. And this just is not used anymore because it's not productive. It's really hard to go back in the design process to climb back up the waterfall, if you think of it visually like a waterfall. And if you do, it sets everything else back. And there's really no room for prototyping throughout the process if you're doing it properly. So you really have to think about the user, not at the end of developing the game, but all the way through the development process, or your game will not be successful. So QA testing. QA testing is usually performed once a prototype is completed. So you have to have something to have users test. Usually it's done with focus groups. And usually testing is done in a lab, if it's done at all. So quality assurance, these people make sure that the video game works, meaning literally that it functions and works correctly. These people are not trained at all in usability, nor is their focus on the overall user experience. Here at situated research, of course, we look for glitches within gameplay. Of course, we look for problems within the interface, but we are focused on the user. We're focused on what drives that user to play that game. What do they like? What do they dislike? Where do they get hung up? Why do they get hung up on that certain part of the game? What is their experience? With usability, these people are more focused on the overall user experience, so the behavior of the user as they play the video game. A good team should have both. You want to make sure that you're looking for glitches, of course. You want to make sure that the interface works with the users, but you also want to make sure that the user is having an experience while playing your game. And you have to know what that experience is supposed to be because it's different for every type of game. So what I did for this webinar is I went on the internet, I looked at some video game companies that we've worked with in the past, and I've looked up some of their job positions and seen what they're looking for. So I put up this description. This is from one of the gaming companies. And they are looking for a quality assurance tester. The requirements are passion for games, high level of motivation, willingness to work long and odd hours, ability to follow direction, good communication, strong work ethic. The job duties include database entry, working in a team, good at finding bugs, and good at describing those bugs. So looking at the game interface, looking at the gameplay, and finding glitches within it. What's wrong with that? Well, first of all, there's no degree needed. A lot of people have a high school education or a bachelor's, which is great. But if they had a higher degree, such as a master's or a PhD, they know more about the research part of it and what needs to be done. So there's no research skills needed. So they are just doing quality assurance. And a lot of gaming companies just hire quality assurance people. Most testers are hired because they love games. And companies are using focus groups. And usually these focus groups have set testers that they work with. They never change. And some of the time, it's employees of the company. So stop and think. If you're having employees of your company test your game, are you really going to get good, honest feedback? I wouldn't tell my company that their game sucked. I wouldn't tell my company that there were a lot of problems and I wouldn't want to play this game. I would just tell them about glitches within the interface. So there's set tasks that are laid out for the testers. So each task is what the developers think, okay, we're going to give them this task because we think that this part of the video game has some problems. Let's get some feedback. So you're not looking at everything. You're not looking at what motivates the player. You're not looking for problems in the storyline, and you're not looking for other issues within the overall user experience that would come up within normal gameplay. Just another example is a software engineer, quality assurance department. The description is game debug, automated testing, data analysis, and providing the highest standards for software. And then they have the requirements. The problem with all of this is that usability research is not being conducted. You have to conduct usability research throughout the whole development process of your game design. It has to be conducted in their natural environment. So like I said, we videotape, but we don't have a mirror up with a wall where they know that we're sitting there and we're taking notes. A lot of usability companies, that's what they do. Well, the user knows that you're behind that mirror. They know that you're watching every little thing. They're going to watch what they say. They're going to watch how they act. They're going to act differently than they would in their natural environment. So our cameras are hidden in the ceilings, in lamps. They're hidden. Of course, they know that they're being videotaped and that the videotape will be reviewed. However, they know that we're not sitting next to them or sitting behind them, watching them. They can act naturally. So what we do after we get that videotape is we do hours and hours of analysis. We use activity theory. So we look for relationships within gameplay. We use ethnomethodology, which is an open-ended research approach, so that we can look at everything. And we use grounded theory. It's a method for finding patterns. We want to look at the overall behavioral patterns with the user. And we measure that. And we have a measuring method that's unique to situated research. We watch the video and we do hours upon hours of analysis. We provide in-depth reports for our clients so that they can make the game better. So they can look at a certain section of the game and say, okay, well, this is what the user was thinking. This is their experience. How can we make it better? So we just don't tell companies, okay, here's the overall user experience. These are some areas that you need to work on. We give them suggestions as well for fixing those problems. So let's talk about problem starting usability research at the end of the development lifecycle. And the reason why this is a section in the webinar is because every week I get a company that contacts us who says, oh, well, we developed a game and we'd like for you to do usability testing on it. Well, we're at the end of the development cycle now. So we're going to do our usability testing, and guaranteed you're going to have to go back, and this is going to be really time consuming, really not cost effective for you when you could have had us be there throughout the whole design process. It would have been more cost effective. So we also have companies that come to us that say, oh, well, we made this video game and we put it out to the public and it flopped. And we want to come out with a new version. We want to make it better, and we understand that we have to do usability research and testing. Can you help us? And so by that time, you've already put out a product that flopped. Now you're trying to make a better version of it, which is great. The public, says thank you for doing that. But most likely, they're not going to buy the new version because they tried the first version and it flopped. So you really need to have this going on throughout the whole design process. First, we must look at what gaming companies are looking for now. And like I said, they're looking for glitches within code. They're looking for glitches within gameplay, interface issues, storyline concerns. Companies are providing clips of glitches within the game. That's what usually usability companies are doing, like as the example with Spore. And so that is helpful, and we do need to do that, but we have to incorporate usability research as well. So what should they be looking for? Well, what's important? In quality assurance, we're looking at the game interface, we're looking at font sizes, we're looking at the readability of the storyline. Does it make sense? When we look at the user, we're looking at their goals that they have before they even play your game. Every user has goals before they play a game, before they go to the store and buy a game. What is the function and mood of the user? And what's motivating them to play your game? Future considerations that are very important is engagement, communication, and do they learn anything from playing your video game? So why do we want to be there in the beginning? We want to be a part of the project from the beginning to end. We want to find concerns with the game in the early stages because it's going to save you money, it's going to save you time, and it's going to make the game better quicker. We're going to give the gaming company a bigger return on investment, and that makes the game a bestseller. Companies that do this. So what are the problems with waiting? You don't defer user testing until you have a fully implemented design. If you do, it will be impossible to fix the vast majority of the critical usability problems that the test uncovers. Many of these problems are likely to be structural, and fixing them will require major re-architecting. And the only way to a high-quality user experience is to start user testing early in the design process and to keep testing every step of the way. Bottom line, it's costly and time-consuming. If you wait until the end, the user's needs were lost along the whole way of the design process. Spore is a quick example of that. Richard Hillman couldn't stress that enough in his keynote. And he was very disappointed. And because of that, we decided, okay, we need to be involved from the beginning to the end. So today's webinar is all about gamer psychology and game challenges. And so you kind of needed that little bit of history before we could get into gamer psychology. Gaming companies, they are missing the most important part of game design, and that's the end user's wants and needs. Think about it. The users are the ones who are buying your games. If they're not motivated, if they don't have a good user experience, they're not going to do it. They're not going to buy your game. They're not going to tell others to buy your game. And companies are really missing the psychology behind the user and the overall gameplay. They don't even know how to look at that. So let's talk about the psychology of your players. Gameplay really is a psychological experience. It's all in the player's head. When a player starts playing your game, they're put into that world. Their ego comes into play, paranoia, delusion, self-destructive behavior. So what do players want to see? We just recently conducted a survey, and we do this about once a year just to get, the public's views on what they're looking for when they play video games. And we want to know what they want to see in the video games that they play. So we did this for one day. It was a survey where we asked, I think it was about 10 questions. About 600 people participated. And we learned what keeps players playing video games, playing your games. And this is what they said. Some people said, it's an escape from reality. I get to enter a fantasy world. So they said, after work, I come home, I've been dealing with the real world, and I need to escape. They like the reward systems in some of the games that they play. They like the graphics. They like the storylines. Some really like the controllers. So for Wii, they really like that because they get to get up and do something that's active. A lot of people that use Xbox said that they get to communicate with others online all around the world, so they think that's pretty cool. They get to become something that they can't in real life. A lot of older people say, I get to play tennis. I haven't played tennis in 30 years. So that excites them. They get to compete against others. A lot of people that have the Wii said that they get to work out while having fun. And a lot of people said that they're not limited when playing games. But the number one reason why people play games, and this is going to be a little shocking, but this was what the survey showed, is that a lot of people said, I get to kill people and objects and not go to jail. I get to do stuff within the gameplay that otherwise society would frown on me for, or I'd go to jail and it wouldn't be legal. So, a lot of people, this was mostly for men, but even some women said this, not just killing people and objects and not going to jail, running them over with a car, whatever, doing stupid stuff. They said, it's great to be able to do that. So they get to escape reality and enter that fantasy world and do things that they can't do in the real world. Really good thing with the psychology of your users is that alliances are formed. Players really believe that they're good before they start your game. They're like, I'm the cat's meow. I'm great at video gaming. I'm going to totally beat this game. So do they play like a good character all of the time? No. There's a lot of cheat codes out there. There's a lot of ways, especially now with social media and forums, where they can cheat the game. They can enhance through the game quicker. And Grand Theft Auto is a great example of this. Dr. Sherritt, when it came out, he got it. And him and his friends were playing it. And that was the first thing that they did is they looked up the cheat codes. They wanted to get a helicopter whenever they summoned it. They wanted, all these different cheats just to play the game. They didn't go through all of the quests that were in there, all of the tasks. They didn't care. They just wanted to blow up stuff. They wanted to, run through the city, summon a helicopter whenever they wanted. Shoot innocent bystanders, run them over, it was pretty funny. But why did they want to do this? Because it's fun and you can't do it in real life, obviously. And so a lot of people don't have the balance of reality and gameplay, so that's an issue, but obviously Dr. Sherritt and his friends do. But it's just fun. And so the point of this is that they know in their minds that they're good video game players. And so they get the game and they look up the cheats right away, and they don't want to do the quests because they know that they can do them, that they will eventually get through the end of the game and accomplish the big task of completing the game. But that's not really it. They want to have fun. They want to get those cheats in there. So Morals are really compromised sometimes within gameplay, and that's something to think about when you're developing a game. Another thing is, do players like to win or lose? And so this was actually a talk that Sid Meier did at GDC 2010 conference, and he said it best. He was talking about the making of Civilization 5, and he said users or players want to win all of the time. If you have a game that has reward versus punishment, there has to be a balance. You cannot make the levels too difficult, or obviously players are going to get mad. They're not going to be able to accomplish their tasks. They're not going to win. They're not going to play the game. So everybody wants to win, but what percentage of the time do they want to win? Well, it's 100%. And if they don't win, what happens? Well, they get mad. They get frustrated, and then they stop playing the game for good. That doesn't do very well for your branding, the game that you put out there, your company, any of that. So there has to be a balance. And designers really have to know that balance and know what their users want. A lot of times we have to think about, is the player protected from themselves during gameplay? So Sid Meier was talking about how when they were making Civilization 5, that it was really easy for people to save at a certain spot in the game and then continue playing the game. And if they didn't like the outcome, they could go back to the saved version and load it and start over. And so he said we were debating if that was a good thing or if it was a bad thing. And he said choices, options, and settings are really important for users. And he said we figured out it's a good thing because that's going to continue them to play the game. If we didn't allow that, they would keep trying to do the tasks, get irritated, and not stop playing the game. He said cheat codes are very important, and modding is a good thing. So if it's moddable, that's great. So he said giving your players options is a great thing to do. It'll keep them playing your game. So within game forums, you can get a lot of insight into cheat codes, into how to manipulate games, because you have some really avid gamers who play games all the time. So they'll put this information up. And cheat codes are very, very important. As game designers, you really have to develop those cheat codes. And you want the player to play your game without cheats as well, but you want to give them the option. So a lot of players, what we find, do play the game from beginning to end. And then after they successfully beat the game, then they start playing the game with cheats. So that keeps them continuing to play your game. Where otherwise, if there weren't cheat codes in place, they'd stop. They'd be like, okay, I beat the game, on to the next thing. But after playing the game through its entirety, it may be more fun to play with those cheats. And it may motivate them to play longer, or to get friends involved, or to say, hey, you guys need to get this game. It's a really good game, but it has some really cool cheat codes. You can do this, this, and that. So what should gaming companies be doing? You have to use the player's imagination, and you have to know what that is. You have to think like the gamer. What worlds do they want to enter and can't in real life? What situations do they want to be in but can't, due to society's rules that are in place for them? You have to go with the flow, and you have to know what that flow is. And you have to tap into what the player already knows. What skill set are my users going to have that have played these types of games before? You also have to listen to the player, what they're saying now, solutions, their emotions, their personalities. What type of profiled person is going to be playing your video game? What do they like? What do they dislike? All feedback is very, very important. So now let's talk about designing for engagement. So ask yourself, does your company currently design for engagement? Most of you will say yes, but the true answer is no. The biggest genre of games that does a good job at this is MMOGs. So collaboration within them is very, very important. Intellectual property of what we look at, we draw questions based off of our approach. What are the rules of the gameplay that allow the gamer to become a member of a guild? How do the roles design within the game allow the guild to win? We look at all of this. We've worked with leading experts in the MMOG world, and we're passionate about collaboration, especially with these types of games, because we believe they are the future of gaming. So let's talk a little bit about interaction design, because we do put that into all of our usability research and testing. Really designing interactive games to support the way people communicate and interact in their gaming worlds is very, very important. We have to create good user experiences. So we have to enhance the way that we communicate, we play together, and we work together. You want to support your users. You don't want to restrict them. So you always have to think in terms of the task, not in terms of the overall system, which a lot of gaming companies always do. You also have to look at users' mental models to show their face here in the process. So with Dr. Sherritt's research, you can go to the link here, or you can email me and I can send it to you. We design game affordances to promote learning and engagement. So basically, an affordance is a potential for action. So he took 3 serious video games, like I said, and put them into an educational classroom setting. And he found patterns of learning among the game players, showing how the design of in-game visualizations either led to success or failure to learn to use basic game controls. He found patterns from gathered video data to highlight learning episodes and patterns of interface use. He looked for patterns of affordances use, so the uptake of a perceived action potential during collaborative gameplay that reveal relationships among the video game interface and player behavior. So this gave focus on how an interface design can guide game player interaction. Great example was Civilization. So the players would be playing the game, and then someone from a different part of the nation would prompt them and say, what would you like to do next? And give them choices. And depending on the choice would totally gear the rest of the gameplay, what direction the player would be going into. So it guided them. And he concluded that a proper balance of flow, difficulty encouraged player engagement and learning. So the transcript showed feelings of frustration with a game interface, often that led players to abandon in-game tasks. However, frustrated goal achievement often led to the renegation of in-game strategies, an indication of engagement. So there's a lot of things that we look at. Seems a little academic-y. I know I get that a lot from gaming companies because they don't understand it and they don't know what's all involved. And if you incorporate all of the different areas that we are experts in, you'll have a good video game. And these are all the different areas that we look at that are encompassed within interaction design. And it can be overwhelming. And a lot of gaming companies say, well, we have people with HCI backgrounds, we have people with psychology backgrounds. Well, that's great, but you have to know how to put it all together. And people don't know how to do that, or they think that they do. So lastly, today we're going to talk about problems with standard tests and the RITE method. So a lot of studies that companies do is quantitative research. And this is statistical analysis. So you get numbers, you get to measure variables. And the disadvantage to this is that it doesn't measure the gamer behavior. Usually you have master's students who can conduct these studies with no real impact on a game's design. So people with master's degrees can do this. But the problem with this is that they're not looking at the gamer behavior. With qualitative studies, you gather an in-depth understanding of human behavior and the reasons that govern such behavior. So it gets to investigate the why and how the users make decisions within gameplay. You use smaller groups because you'll get richer data. Now, the RITE method, if you're not familiar with it, is short for rapid iterative testing and evaluation. And many companies do employ this method without truly understanding it. It was pioneered by Microsoft Game Studios and Microsoft Research. And Dr. Sherritt actually wrote an article on what's wrong with the RITE method. And he did that, not saying that anything is wrong with it, not saying not to use it, but he did it to get a lot of attention. And he got the attention of the gentleman who actually came up with the RITE method. And there was a big debate back and forth with him and Dr. Sherritt. And they came out to the solution that there are some problems with it, but that we could offer some solutions to fix it. So they worked together a little bit on that. But we have a great blog post on our blog that talks about it. So you may want to check that out. The benefits are that rapid iterative research design allows usability researchers to detect problems and inform the game design team immediately instead of waiting. So rounds of this are conducted, and the number of usability problems originally detected should go down with each iteration. So we challenge the quality of usability problems being found by using this method. Does a rapid and iterative approach dive deep into the user experience to find problems that are not otherwise being found by existing QA teams? Now, Jacob Nielsen put it best. He's the guru of usability. And he said, usability research is to design as quality assurance is to testing. So quality assurance is great. You have to have that piece. But that's just testing the system. Usability research has to be used throughout the design process. You should expect more than basic usability testing. So this is very important with the RITE method. We are interested in finding basic usability issues, but we're more interested in deeper meaning. And so a mixed approach is needed. Patterns and player motivation are very, very important. And we go beyond traditional testing as we've discussed before. So you can go ahead and read the discussion from one of the founders of the RITE method with Dr. Sherritt on our blog at this link. And I'm going to change it now. So if you don't get the link, just go to our blog and type in RITE method and it'll come up. So you've attended today's session on gamer psychology. So now you should be able to answer this question. What is most important when thinking about developing the next big hit video game? Well, it's the players. It's the people, the users, the players who are going to be playing your game. These people can be anyone. These people can be young children who go over to their friend's house and play video games after school or on the weekend. This could be a newly married couple who's young, who likes to play video games together. Or it can be an older generation. Video games are now in nursing homes. They're now in assisted living places to help to get elderly people more active. Video games are everywhere. The range of people who play video games has really gone to the older generation as well. So you have all of these different age groups playing your games. There's no way to be able to understand how each group of players works, reacts, and what kind of overall experience they have with your video game or your type of video game unless you do usability research. So in the end, the player or the end user is the most important to game design. You have to think about what they want to see. How do they want to win levels? How do they want to play the game? What is motivating them to keep playing the game? What attracts them to the game? And the list goes on and on and on. So what can Situated Research do for you? Well, we'd like to have a free consultation with your gaming company. This is one-on-one time that we do. We answer all of your questions and we give a presentation to your staff for an hour. We get into the specifics of our company, our approach. And because of that, we ask that the company signs a non-disclosure agreement. A lot of the time, we can do this on site, or we can travel to your site, or it can be done remotely through GoToMeeting. And after we do that, about 90% of the time, companies will say, okay, well, we're working on a project. Can you give us a quote? And so then we can give you a realistic number of how much the usability research and testing will cost and how much it will save you as well. We also do that. So it's a realistic quote. Right now on our website, we have some rough pricing, but it really depends on the company situation, what kind of project they're working on, how big is the project, and if you're a startup company, we really do try to help you out. So if you're interested in this free consultation, contact me. Email me directly at michelle@situatedresearch.com. And again, we are Situated Research. We're located about 45 minutes west of Chicago. There's our direct phone number. And you can also visit us on the web at www.situatedresearch.com.